Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Sports Tech Allstars podcast, another speed round. We're doing this live in Riyadh at the Esports World Cup, and of course from the new Global Sports Conference. I've had a bunch of interesting leaders on here, but maybe not so many familiar faces like this one, especially for the fans of the NFL. My guest today right now is MJ Acosta-Ruiz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
It is. And I want to talk to you, MJ, quickly about, we're at the end of the conference, let's say. So your big takeaways. What has been most interesting for you to be a part of this?
One, that I really want to be an investor. Unfortunately, I have like $5 to invest. We'll build that. We'll build upon it.
I don't quite believe that. I think that,
You know what it
how
is?
much the contract is, but I'm sure it's
I
more than
have
$5.
$5 that I'm willing to invest.
Very
Very
smart.
risk averse at
There you
this
go.
point. No, but I think the bigger takeaways is how much people are really investing in this
Right.
side. And if it's one thing I learned from this business is follow the money. So if people are investing in it, for those who don't know or are not familiar with this industry or with this community, I think it can seem very niche, but it's so far reaching. And it is perfectly underscored in a conference like this that bookends the Esports World Cup. I mean, it is massive. This is huge. It's really, really big.
Yeah, and a lot of money as well. And actually, the audience that you're referring to is kind of our audience, where
Right.
in the sports technology side, and I don't know how much everybody's familiar with esports. I look at it, follow it on the gaming side, but not really in it.
Sure.
And in fact, your panel today was so interesting. Of the ones that I caught over the last couple of days, which is actually talking about this marriage or this intersection
Right.
between where sports and esports can come together,
Exactly.
what those cross learnings can be. I thought it was a fascinating session. I actually spoke with Andrew Chen yesterday.
Oh, he's
on the pod.
amazing.
He was great.
Yeah.
With Michael Metzger, I know from before as well. So some people that I know, but also there was a lot of interesting perspectives. I want
Right.
to take your takeaways from that session.
Yeah.
What were your biggest learnings, or where those points of intersection lie?
I think the biggest thing is the traditional sports landscape is still not dependent, but I think we're so used to seeing it in the linear format, right? On a television, whether you're at home or you're out at a pub or you're out at a restaurant and you're watching with friends. Whereas, as we know, everything has developed so much where people are consuming it on their electronic devices or they're watching it in different ways. And that's why you see so many different streams and almost a pick your own adventure of how you want to watch a particular game. I think the game itself is still the star of the show, but now the lens from which you consume that content are so different and so far reaching. So the fact that they were talking about those things and that we have executives from the quote unquote traditional lines of linear media was really telling, because the media side of it has changed drastically over even the course of the last 5 years. And I think over the last year and a half, we've seen really abrupt changes in that. And a lot of it has to do with how people are consuming content, what tech they're using, how we have a curated experience in the palm of our hands every single day, and how that affects and impacts everything else around us, including live, unscripted, spontaneous sports events that we watch on TV.
Yeah, and the story is there. You just have to tell it or find the right way to tell
Exactly
it.
that.
That's the power of the sports storytelling. Peter Hutton made some couple of interesting points about the transition from what you're talking about, that everybody can become their own director,
Right.
about how they experience sports, but also there is an expert sitting in a chair somewhere.
Correct.
So let that man or woman tell their story the best
Right.
way they know how, but allow you to participate in that storytelling, which is really powerful. I want to talk about what you just referred to, the evolution of the space and the real jump that we're seeing now, especially the NFL, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix has a ticket now,
Right.
right? There's a Sunday.
Amazon,
Amazon
like,
has
yeah.
a ticket. Google has had one for a couple of years.
We have game exclusively on Peacock, right? Like playoff games,
Right.
like not just
It
regular
is crazy.
season.
So that
Yeah.
transition from linear to now the tech guys are coming in. There's a lot of interesting things that they will
Right.
bring. How has your own experience as a broadcaster changed over that time? Let's say over the last 5 years, and then
Right.
especially over the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah, I think from the broadcast space, for example, how people are watching it, I had to teach my dad, like, okay, Dad, we're gonna have to download this streaming app so that you can watch the game. He's like, I don't understand why isn't it on the channel guide? I'm like, because it's on streaming, right? And even though he was like a little hesitant to it, he's like, okay, well, whatever. Where do I have to go to watch the game? So as a broadcaster, I have to always be mindful of how I'm speaking about the game and its consumption to the audience that I serve. I am, in essence, their eyes and ears. I get the access that they don't get to see. I get to talk to the people that they want to talk to. But now I think when you and this is where I see the biggest connection between traditional sports and esports, right? I think a lot of our discussions were, why would I watch somebody playing a game? I'm like, well, why would I watch somebody watching a game? And now we see the Manning brothers,
Manning cast, yeah.
the Manning cast, and there's like tons of other athletes who do it as well, and people tune in mass to watch their perspective. But it's the same concept. It's the same concept as watching somebody play a game. You're watching someone who used to play this game watch this game. So it's like the Inception side of things. But I think adding the personality side of it, the okay, well, what do they think while they're watching the game? Yeah. And those little contextual clues of their lived experience is something that the audience is not just interested in, but demanding from all of us.
I think watching something entertaining, right? At the end of the day, wherever it comes from, how it engages with sports is an interesting one. On your own experience, but delivering a broadcast, like that has changed a lot, right? I mean, in terms of just the graphics that you use, which is flat, but also how you as a broadcaster, your guests, your experts are interacting with touchscreens and pads and kind of tools that they're using. Is there a steep learning curve?
Yeah, a little bit. But I remember, in the days of the great John Madden, when they first were doing like the telestrator, and that technology seemed crazy to us. What do you mean you can write on something and show me exactly how the play developed just like with your finger? And now it seems so archaic to all of us because we literally have next-gen stats popping up an analyst in the middle of a game. That's another option that you have on the Amazon Thursday night games, where they're giving you just an influx of stats at all times. And some people really want that. Other folks just purely, the purists, right? The old school peeps, just want to listen to their broadcasters and just listen to the games. Other people, the ones who like to bet, want to hear the stats and the development and like all of those like props that are in between. So I think the way that we tell the stories of the game, and there's an infinite amount of those, everyone can sort of find that lane, and there's some that we haven't even discovered yet.
Yeah, and that's just the personalized experience from like creating. I know NFL did something with Nickelodeon around
the Slimecast for the kids.
Stuff and that's all just dependent on
it's so cute.
Yeah, exactly. It looks really interesting as well. So how technology can really change the experience. Shifting gears, I want to talk about the evolution of women's sports. I know you have a property there, a show which is about, again, storytelling there. And we've done a bit of content around how technology plays a role in amplifying women's sports and the reach of it. From your perspective, how have you seen that growth? Because that's also been powerful.
It's huge. Yeah, the show is called Like a Girl, so it's all about the lens of the female athlete, female sports executives, the broadcasters, all of us who have sort of been in the space but didn't have bigger platforms than what we have earned. It's crazy because we did an episode on the NWSL team in Los Angeles, which is the Angel City FC. And they are one of the teams who I think are really at the forefront of the technology side. I remember asking, the players were wearing these things on their necks, and most of them had it on. I'm like, what is that? And it's something to help with concussion. So it's like a new tech that they're trying out, but they really believe in it, on how they can sort of reference, and I'd be lying if I told you I knew exactly how it worked.
Fair.
Out of my purview.
We'll look into it. That's our
But a really cool way to not only player safety, but also even just the numbers on how these athletes are performing. And I love that it was a women's team that was really getting into it, because I think when you think about female athletes, there are so many other factors that also have to take into play from just the perspective of women's health too. So the world of women's sports is so much more layered and so much more nuanced than we've even been afforded the opportunity to tell yet. And so that's really exciting.
And at least we're seeing now, finally, the commerce is catching up. That age-old argument of there's not enough money here. But no, if you put it on TV or put it on screens enough, there are, the followings are there. The
if
NCAA
you play it, we will watch.
Exactly. That's the thing about sports. And on the other side, actually delivering sports for the athletes as well, like equipment. We talk about injuries in the female body is very different from the male body. We've seen a lot of injuries which ruled out players from the last Women's World Cup. And that's because of bad equipment and such. And so technology is really playing a big role in how that storytelling is coming to force. So it's great to see that you are helping tell those stories further.
Yeah, and learning in the process too, because even we have not been privy to all of the resources that have been out there, or lack thereof resources, and how we can bridge that gap as well.
Fantastic. All right, MJ, so painting the picture, what does the next 12, 18 months look like for you?
Oh my gosh.
Exciting coming up?
Well, the start of football season. So if you only see me on the screen, that's why. Well, if I'm not working, I'm probably going to try to sleep in between, but there's a lot going on. I'll be on Monday nights over on ESPN doing their Monday night coverage in Spanish for Deportes, and still continuing my work with NFL Network, as well as hosting some sports centers and who knows what else along the way.
Quick prediction, Super Bowl, who's in there?
Oh, man. I promised someone I would not say the Chiefs. I'm not gonna say the Chiefs.
But you're gonna.
But no, I'm not.
Okay.
I just have to. You sort of have to mention them in the conversation,
Fair
as
enough,
annoying as
fair
it
enough.
may be for those who are not Chiefs fans. But they really have been. They're the new Patriots, right? Like
Right,
growing up,
yeah.
they were. The Patriots was the bane of everybody's existence. Speaking of the AFC East, I hope that my Dolphins can make something happen. They've paid everybody on the squad. The defense is coming back healthy, and this is where I, as not just a journalist but also a football fan.
Right.
I get to come on shows like this and be biased. So I'm hoping that it's the Miami Dolphins. That's my hometown. But we'll see. That's the thing. The league is a league of a lot of transition. So when we think of, it's probably the Chiefs, that's assuming that everything is apples to apples the same from the season prior. And that's just not how it works. Now, tell that to the team that just won back-to-back Super Bowls. They don't care about what we think.
Yeah, and that's how franchises and legacies are built. But
Correct.
It's good to see new names in there. Thanks so much, MJ, for taking the time. Before I let you go, I have one last question to ask. It's how I always end my pod. I like to believe, and clearly we are sports fans first. So I want to know what has been your favorite sporting moment. Maybe, and for you, I'll ask it in two parts. One is as a fan, and one is actually as a broadcaster covering an experience.
Okay, I'll give you the fan one first, and it's not football. Okay. I grew up as an elder millennial, mid to late 90s in New York as a Yankees fan. And so living through that era of just World Series after World Series and having that be the bonding moment with my dad and with my family, like those are core memories, right, built in. I remember exactly how it felt, when they won, and then the parades that came after. And so those are things that stick with you, that keep your fandom going throughout the rest of your life. So those are really special. And then as a broadcaster, I was able to host the Super Bowl in stadium.
Wow.
In Arizona a couple of years ago, and it was the first time I had been on the sideline from start to finish of a Super Bowl. And to have that perspective at this point in my career and experience it in a new way was really, really special, and something that I definitely don't take for granted.
A couple of years ago, so who was it? Chiefs versus?
Eagles.
Eagles, okay,
Yeah.
that's the one.
That's the one, right? You know it was the Chiefs, no matter what. Yeah.
But thanks again, MJ. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap for this series, I believe. We've been here in Riyadh. It's been a busy couple of days, a lot of learning for me, and some of it which I hope to pass on to you guys. We'll do a summary and key takeaways and all of that. More to come. See you guys soon.